Are you guys ready? Because this one's gonna be good. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Anna, and today I have 2 poetry book reviews that I'm going to try and get through by the same author. So for this author, I've heard a lot of different sort of mixed feelings regarding his work. He's very well known on Instagram and the internet and has a huge social media following, very impactful, and yet there are people who I've heard don't like him because they characterize his work as cliche or very simplistic. And so I'm here to give my views on people's opinions on that and then my own personal views on this author. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the 2 books that I'm going to be reviewing today are Love Her Wild by Atticus and The Dark Between Stars, also by Atticus. So this is currently the 2-part series for Atticus, and I think from what I hear, he's going to be writing a new one, which I can't wait to read. So I just want to give my opinion on the author before I get into his work, and then we'll get into why I think that I like Atticus. I like his work, I like his artistry, I like his aesthetic. I think it works for him, and I think the way that he puts his material together is very appealing, very eye-catching, and I don't have a problem with the fact that he talks about love for literally the entirety of his books. I think that's his prerogative. I think that's his choice, and from whatever that I get from him, I appreciate. I used to feel like, oh, I wish there was more variety. I wish he talked about other things other than love, and even in his books he sort of does touch on them, but his books do have this core topic of love. And as I thought about it more, I was like, well, why is it a problem? That's the theme of this series is love and the different ways that we look at love. And yeah, I don't think that's a problem when we have, in film or even in television, there are certain themes that run through those mediums, those genres, and we accept it and it's fine. So I think for the purposes of this series, I think the fact that he talks about love is okay. And he actually, I think that also gives him freedom to delve into many different aspects of love, the traits, the characteristics that love should and shouldn't be. And so I think because he's focused on one topic, it gives him a lot of freedom to explore a lot more details for the topic. So for these 2 books in particular, I'm still debating on which one I like more. I think, from what I can remember reading this the first time, this had a more emotional effect on me. I remember, I have it written in the back, the effect that it had on me. And for this one, I think because I have already read his work, for this one I came in knowing a little bit more of what to expect, and I was still blown away, and I was still really into it and loved it and related to a lot of the topics that he talks about. And so I'm going to do this one first just because obviously he wrote it first. And so obviously title Love Her Wild. There are 3 sections for each part of the title. So the first section, love, second section, her, third section, wild. And they kind of focus on those topics. So the love section will focus on love, obviously. The second section will focus on her, whoever he's talking about, whether it be, I guess, his own love interest or just maybe a love interest in general and the feelings that go along with loving a woman, and sort of lifting her up and delving into the intricacies of a female and being in love with a very complex yet beautiful female. And then, of course, the last one would be wild, and I think that really delves into the effects that love has on him as probably the poet, and also on a relationship with this woman, or just relationships in general. I am typically a person who likes to make notes in my poetry books, and at first I was really hesitant to mark my books up and fold pages, and because I used to come from that mindset of I can't damage the book, it's got to be in perfect condition. But now that I do it a lot, I love going back and seeing what I thought when I read a particular poem. And I did that a lot for the second book because I was just starting to do that for this first book. But there is one poem, or I would say quote, because it's really short, but there's one line in this book that I think sort of one of my favorites for the whole book, and also just sort of sums up a lot of what life is about. And I'll read it for you guys because I think this is a great sort of like I'm gonna fish for you guys to like read this book, if that makes sense. So it says, "We are all born free and spend a lifetime becoming slaves to our own truth." And that's really interesting. I think, you know, society has a lot to do with that. We grow up without the context, and as we get older, the context sort of make themselves known in our lives through our parents, through the people that we're around, and we sort of become that person that is more aware of our surroundings. And so it's a lot harder, I think, when you get older to sort of differentiate the lies from the truth. Yeah, I do agree with that, and I think part of this book was delving into ways that either love can tether you or free you, and sort of the consequences of those actions. What I really love about this book, and I was talking to somebody who had commented either on my Instagram page or my YouTube page about Atticus. This is not just poetry. This whole book is a work of art. Everything that is in this book serves a purpose towards the overall look, feel, theme of the book, and that I really appreciate. I really appreciate when a poetry collection is an experience, and this is definitely one of those. There's photography, there's artwork, there are different fonts. He has calligraphy in there, which I love calligraphy. Like, if I could do calligraphy, I would literally be doing it all day, because I feel like it's really therapeutic, and you get to work with words on such a different level. And it's just everything about this book. It's not a static book. It's very dynamic. It's got so many different moving parts, and he just brings it all together so flawlessly in this collection. And I'm gonna read what I wrote, how I felt when I first read this book, when I got to the end, and this was my feeling, because I think I sum it up pretty well. "This book showed me the true meaning of words. When I began it, I was everything I expected. I thought what I thought would be an unextraordinary read. But then, the words changed me. Something changed me, and every page held more meaning, every line a deeper truth. And it happened again. I fell in love." So, if that is not a incentive to read this book, then I would at least challenge you to get it and read it for yourself so you can decide. I'm sort of against the feeling of telling people how to feel about certain things, because I don't like when people do that to me. I have no problem with people's opinions, and if they think something was bad or, you know, or good, or, you know, whatever. And I'll listen to people's opinions and their reasons for why they have those opinions, but at the end of the day, I just prefer to make those decisions for myself. And so I'm not here to tell you, oh, it was amazing and you should read it because this book is great for everyone. I definitely don't think that. I think it really depends on you and how you feel about poetry. There are definitely one-liners in there. I know that bothers people. There are definitely instances where you feel like, you know, maybe that's not your idea of what poetry should look like. But I would challenge you also to consider that it's not just about the one-liners. It's not just about each poem taken individually. It's about the whole experience of the book. The entire book is a poem. I really do feel like that's what he was going for. And yeah, so don't take my word for it. This is just my opinion that I want to share to sort of facilitate discussion about poetry because I love it, but don't take my word for it. Read it yourself and decide for yourself if you like it or not. And if you don't, that's fine. But if you do, then you definitely would have gained something from the experience. Okay, so the second book, The Dark Between Stars, he does it again with the sections. There's stars between, and then he goes the dark. So he reverses it. So he takes stars and delves into that first. And for some reason, this has a lot to do with Paris. I don't know if that was where he was when he wrote the book, which I have no qualms with. I'm taking French in college, and so that is infinitely better for me because I would love to be in Paris, as that's like the setting for whatever love theme he is talking about, which is perfect because I'm pretty sure they consider Paris a very romantic city. What I liked about this one, the poetry was a little longer in this one, so we got more of Atticus's work. I feel like he goes a little deeper, and I think he meant to do that. I feel like Love Her Wild was sort of setting up for more of a deeper exploration for the subject and theme of love. The stars go over the idea of light and how the stars sort of correlate with love and loving a person. He has a little bit of French in there, which was great. I was able to understand it, thankfully. He has a lot of great lessons and a lot of great sort of visuals in this book as well. So this is a really beautiful one of the night sky, and then he's got the poem here, and I really liked that. The theme is it's just so aesthetic. When you think of Paris and love and stars, there's just this feeling that it evokes in you of like this nostalgia that it's a nostalgia that you shouldn't have, or at least I don't have, because I never fell in love with anyone in Paris. But yet, it's just like a feeling of like either a longing or nostalgia. I don't know how you would combine those for feelings that you never felt before. But that was definitely what I felt. It was like a story that I've heard before, and it wasn't my story, but yet it was, if that makes any sense. And then, for Between, I think it definitely incorporates relationship into that. It has more pictures of two people together. It has more perspective of both sides of maybe some of the problems that can happen in a relationship, the misunderstandings that can go on, and just another beautiful section. And then lastly, The Dark. And I feel like, I don't know why he saved that for last. I don't know if that has anything to do with the continuation of his next sort of section of this series. But The Dark, of course, I don't know if you could probably tell from that title, but it does delve into some troubles that people go through just individually, and how that affects the relationships, how it affects falling in love, affects falling out of love, things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of themes of like going through a dark time in order to come out like on the side of the light, to rise from the darkness into like this place of hope and courage, things like that, which, you know, are very uplifting. And like in talking about it now, I can see why he would have left that for last, because that would definitely leave his readers with this hope that like, just because you've gone through something difficult doesn't mean that you are incapable of feeling love, of giving love. So this is one that I really like, a poem that definitely is related to our society and how we think about relationships. The problem with dating these days is that we compare real humans to the perfect potential of everyone we haven't met yet. And that one like hit me like right in the face of like, wow, we do that actually. That's exactly what we do. We have this ideal in our heads of a person that we haven't met, and whenever we do get with someone, we compare them to that standard, and that person may be a great person, but we're always looking for this next person that has the potential to be better, instead of just enjoying the person that we're with for who they are. And that can be really damaging to the person once they realize, because they will realize. And it can also be damaging to you in having these expectations that can't be met continually, and feeling as if you're never going to find someone because you're always unhappy with the person that you're with. And I love poetry. I love people that make me think deeper about the way that I think. I definitely liked the insight that he brought for this book. I'm gonna actually have to go and say that I liked Love Her Wild better, just because I think I'm connecting that to the feelings that I felt the first time I read it. Maybe if I read it again, it would be different. Maybe I would like this one better, but I'm definitely going to say I liked Love Her Well better. So, yeah. I don't want to get too much into it. I'm trying to keep my reviews as, not minimal. I don't want to like not say anything. I don't want to say everything and not say anything. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I do want to leave a lot open for interpretation for the people who I'm recommending it to, so that way they are not influenced by my opinion. I do want to prevent that from happening as much as possible, because I know it can be very frustrating to read or listen or watch a review on something and then go experience that same piece of art with those opinions of somebody else. It can be very frustrating and very difficult to form your own opinions when you already have that in the back of your mind, and I don't want to do that. That's going to be my short take on Atticus's two works, Love Her Wild and The Dark Between Stars. If you've read this, please let me know in the comments what you thought about it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, and why. And if you haven't read this, then I wholeheartedly advise you to get a copy and experience the world of Atticus. It's a beautiful world filled with beautiful pictures, beautiful poetry, and beautiful messages. So definitely go check that out and tell me what you think. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at thepoetscorner46. I love hearing from you guys, and I always post new things about poetry. Sometimes I post my own poetry on there, so definitely go check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.